Rachel Carrell, thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
Well, let's just start off with what is it that Koru kids do, and what is the impact that you aspire to have with Koru?
Cool. So what we do is we train nannies and match them and manage them. We're a platform to manage your childcare. So we concentrate on after-school care. It's a particularly neglected period of time for childcare. It's most startups and most others have focused on babies and toddlers, but we focused on after school. And we, what we do is we train these nannies. They can pick up the kids from school, look after them for 2-3 hours, play, make food, do all that stuff until the parents come home. And one of the cool things that we're just launching at the moment is Nanny Share. It's so cool because the concept is one nanny takes care of kids from 2 different families. And so it means the nanny gets paid more, the parents pay less, the kids get to play together. So it's just this beautiful win-win-win-win. And what we do is we do the training and kind of content and management and all of that. And then we also make the software that helps parents manage all the massive complexity of their childcare. I can imagine. And the second service, the Nanny Share,
is that a recent service then?
Well, it's actually, we might get onto this, but it's actually where we started.
Oh wow!
And what happened was I originally raised money to do it, to do the baby and toddler version of Nanny Share. And meanwhile, kind of off the side, I did a little experiment in after school, and what I discovered was that there was this huge amount of latent demand for after school, and so I ended up pivoting the company to focus on after school about 2.5 years ago. And we've done that now for about 2 years, and now we're coming back to saying, well, after school's great, it's going really, really well, but we actually kind of have this unfinished business, which was the first product that I started off with, which is thinking about Nanny Share. And so we're now actually going back to Nanny Share, and we're thinking about it for older kids, but also for younger kids.
That's interesting. And like, were there like elements or like certain, I don't know, hurdles at the beginning you probably didn't see?
For sure. I mean, millions of them. But I think you just cannot know the complexity until you try it. And this Nanny Share, in theory, is beautiful. And whenever I explain it to people, whenever I just tell people, you know, the 20-second version like I just did, people immediately get it. And it's one of those ideas, it's like Airbnb or something. It's like one of those ideas that people are like, that's really transformational, it's win-win-win. People get excited when they hear this idea. And yet when you try to actually make it happen, it is freaking complicated. There are so many things that need to coincide. So in terms of the complexity of the product is absolutely huge. And I often say that what we're building, the tech side, I have to be careful about this because I don't want to. I mean, our engineers are awesome, but I the tech side is not the hard bit.
Is it not?
Well, this is where my head of engineering is like, Rachel, it's not exactly easy. No, I know it's hard, but the bit, but it's let's say it's normal amount of hard. The bit that is really, really freaking hard. But amazing is the product side, and so that has been the real challenge because when you're thinking about childcare, it's not a normal purchase. You know, and we're not talking about shoes or makeup or, you know, even bank, you know, your credit card or whatever. I mean, how much do you really care whether your credit card is, you know, bright pink or light purple or whatever? Whereas how much do you care who's going to look after your kids and what they're going to do all day? Like, you care about that so much, almost more than anything in the world. And it's also, by the way, an incredibly expensive purchase. So from any viewpoint, you really, really deeply care about it. And so the psychological complexity tied up with it is huge. And that's what's so that's the biggest challenge, is just designing a product where people care about it so much.
I can imagine. And like, so you're dealing with the nanny side, and then also for on the parent side as well. So I guess there's a massive level of supply and demand. I mean, I was just really curious to know, like, I mean, how did you come across the solution? I mean, did you struggle to find a great nanny for your kids?
No, everyone always wants me to have that story.
No, yeah, it's the most obvious one, right?
Yeah, right. So I am a mom. I've got 2 kids, and I've got a 5-year-old and an almost 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And I have actually always been really lucky with their childcare.
Okay.
So it was less about my own problem.
Yeah.
Right for the first 3 years of my oldest child, my daughter's life, she was looked after by this amazing childminder who was local and was amazing. And so I was actually fine, but it was more that once you have kids, you start hanging out with people who have with other parents all the time, and you talk about childcare all the time. Yeah. And I started to understand the impact that other people having problems with it was having on their lives. So it was more about seeing my friends, you know, having to give up their jobs when they didn't want to, or you know, having to work full time when they actually wanted to be part time. Yeah. Or you know, I was just talking to someone this morning whose wife is an anaesthetist and works shifts. That is really hard to find childcare for. So it was more just like this accumulation of so many of my friends' stories that made me think this is just a broken system. And although I personally have got lucky, it's just luck. Yeah. You know, I had a great childminder, but there aren't enough childminders in the country. We've lost about 10,000 recently in the last few years. Yeah. And because it's not a very attractive career for a lot of people to go into. So it's a fundamentally broken system. And I started seeing that all over the place. And then I thought, I want to dedicate my life to fixing it. Yeah.
In terms of the problem that you're solving has probably increased in complexity given the changes in work now, because a lot more people do freelancing and a lot more people don't have that specific career where they're stuck in the office 9 to 5. They're totally freelancers, and you know, at times they have work and at times they don't have work. How has that kind of compounded the complexity of kind of building the product?
Yeah, it totally has. Yeah. So you're totally right. The childcare system there's never been a golden age of childcare. It's not like it used to be great and now it's terrible. Yeah. It's always been quite terrible. Yeah. Or maybe the golden age was like in villages where you have the grandparents around and, you know, the aunts and uncles, and like maybe that's the golden age. But there hasn't been a recent golden age in Western Europe, put it that way.
Not when technology was around.
No, and it's definitely not in the UK for a long time. Yeah. So it's not like it used to be great, but it used to be that you either worked full time 9 to 5 or you didn't work, and people didn't really do part time or shifts or gigs or kind of all this stuff. And so the childcare system, such as it is built on this 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week assumption, which is basically nursery. And nursery just doesn't work for so many people. So I think the mismatch has got a lot worse. And we get a lot of parents calling up and saying, you know, I've negotiated with my employer that I can work 3 days a week, or I can, I can work these times or whatever. But I can't find the childcare to match. And I feel like employers have really shifted very dramatically in the last 5 years, and now they're willing to entertain these flexible working requests, but the childcare system is just not there to support it.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in terms of your service and your platform, I mean, I had a quick look obviously before I came, and is the payment included in the platform, and are the nannies able to take payments directly off the app?
So our core product principle is simplicity. Yeah. And so we try to help parents with as much of managing childcare as we possibly can. And we've got a couple of things coming down the pipeline which we'll launch soon, which are even more stuff than we do at the moment. But you know, right now we do contracts, we do pension if the nanny legally needs a pension, we do that. Yeah. So we incorporate a ton of stuff into the platform. We're working on right now, which I'm really excited about, is helping nannies and families communicate with each other. And what we know from lots and lots of customer interviews and stuff is that nannies and families often there are things they want to say to each other, but the relationship is so delicate that they just don't say the things that need to be said. And so we are designing a part of our service that helps them have the conversations that they really should be having to make their working relationship better. Okay. And that when I say that the product is complex, I mean that that's a delicate thing to design. You
can't just put an instant message.
Exactly right. Like you're dealing with kind of complicated, nuanced psychology. Yeah. So even I think I might have called it feedback or something just then when I said it. We don't call it feedback because people don't like the word feedback.
Too simplistic, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a bit scary, you know. No one likes, you don't like giving feedback and receiving feedback. People don't like that.
Especially not about your kids.
Exactly, right. So we couldn't call it, so we call it something else. But that's the kind of thing that we're trying to fold into the platform. And the core product principle is simplicity. And the reason for that is just because working parents are the most stressed, exhausted people on the face of the planet. You know, I am one. My son woke up at 4:30 this morning, and I didn't get back to sleep after that. You know, I'm totally exhausted. And what it normally looks like, if you don't use our product, is, you know, a mum lying in bed at night at 11:30, WhatsApping her friend saying, "Does anyone know a good nanny payroll service?" You know, it's just stuff you don't need.
Yeah, and I was really curious to know. I actually came across your business first when I was at the Web Summit 2017. So I heard your pitch. Cool. It was really interesting. The first thing I remember that really stuck out to me was that the fact that the childcare industry has largely been under the radar in comparison to other tech verticals, and despite the market being $11 billion. I was just really curious to know about there's never been a natural progression for a nanny in terms of career prospects, and that's kind of what you guys are providing. I mean, was that a component that was really important to you when building your product? Because that's one end of the market, right? Yeah,
we have to think really carefully about how to make this an amazing job for nannies. Our mission is all about families, and we had a big debate internally about that. You know, should our mission be about families or about nannies or about both? And the reality is, of course, we have to design things for both, and we have to make sure that we are the best place that a nanny can do their job. And luckily that is not that hard, because normally, you know, being a nanny can be a very isolated, unsupported existence. And there are lots of nannies that have great nanny social circles around them and great jobs and have great relationships with their families, but there's also a lot of nannies out there who don't have any of that. You know, and they can be very vulnerable, and you know, they can be exploited. They can be put on contracts which are not market standard, and you know, paid very little, and there's all sorts of ways that they can just be essentially taken advantage of. And so it's always been really important to me that we are creating really good jobs. And then the other thing that we do is we have a big emphasis on training and upskilling. And that's an area that I'm really excited to build out over the next year or two. Yeah,
this is really fascinating to me, because your product seems like it has a lot of complex nuance, a lot of features and a lot of things that you put in, but then you said that your core product philosophy is simplicity. I mean, how do you avoid feature creep in a product that's technically and psychologically so nuanced?
Yeah, it's really tough. It's a great question. I mean, I think it's complicated for us. It should be simple for the user. But the thing is, these are all things that our families and nannies are dealing with anyway. You know, so as an example, you know, it does happen that a nanny becomes pregnant, right? As you're talking about people who are, a lot of them are women in their 20s. Some of them are going to get pregnant. And at that point, the parent has obligations, maternity, because they're in the employer. They have obligations around maternity pay. So it's not really a choice whether or not to deal with that. But you have to, by law, they have to deal with that. And so we then, because our whole mission is about supporting them all the way through, we have to deal with it. You know, so we had to build in maternity stuff. Same with holidays, same with sick pay, same with like all the other employment entitlements. So yes, that does mean hell of a lot of complexity for us to deal with.
Yeah.
But the product principle is we just take on as much of the burden as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I think that if you were to criticize, I think one of the major criticisms that I would have, we're very self-critical of ourselves, is that we don't communicate that value enough. You know, I think it's not obvious, and you looked at our website, and you probably didn't, you wouldn't have seen a fraction of the value that we give.
Definitely
we give
not.
so much value to the families that are kind of like delighters, you know, after the fact.
Yeah.
And while that's great and cool that we do it, I think we should, one of the things that we could do better is communicating it.
Communicating like the new values or features that you're adding onto the platform.
Families that join up with Koru Kids that get one of our nannies are going to get so much value. It's insane.
Yeah.
And they don't actually realize it. So we need to do a better job at communicating that.
Yeah. It's like providing a Mac to a kid. Like they don't know what was before, right?
You do not know the power you're holding.
Yeah, exactly. I want to kind of go into your beginnings when you first started Koru Kids. I mean, I'm really fascinated. What really fascinated me about Koru Kids was the complexity of the product and how simple you keep it simultaneously. So I was just really curious to know how you found building the MVP and what core assumptions or philosophies did you take when building out your MVP? Because it's quite a precarious time, right? I mean,
we did it very classically.
Yeah.
We did it concierge first, and then automated, and that's a process that's still continuing. So you know, we still do a hell of a lot of stuff
manually.
Concierge, manually, and then kind of following behind with the automation.
Yeah.
And so, for example, right now we're doing a bit more automation in this cycle of our contracts, for example. But right now there's still a little bit of stuff in there that gets done manually. So I think that's kind of the basic philosophy is use really smart humans. And I recruited a team of, particularly in the most junior people, I recruited amazingly smart grads, like really the absolute best. And I put them through all sorts of tests and challenges and stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It was really hard to get a job. And so the people who made it through are amazing. And they've been with us for, you know, the whole journey. They're like, they're so brilliant and loyal and just the most incredible people. Yeah. And they know that they understand this domain so well now because they've been here for like a year or two and dealing with customers every day. And doing all this concierge work, and so they are now the people who are becoming product managers. Yeah, we're investing a ton in training. Yeah, so you know we're sending them on like product manager courses and stuff, and kind of they are now discovering this career path. So that's been kind of part of how we've done it, and that so we've used people to absorb the complexity. Yeah, and just kind of thrown smart people at it, and hoped it will sort itself out.
Yeah, I mean in terms of were there any like discoveries during the MVP phase where obviously you were trying to get to the product market fit? I mean, were there any discoveries that you were kind of shocked to hear about or learn about your customers?
Lots and lots. We learn things all the time. I mean, one thing was I think small things like for nannies for babies, parents who have their first child and are looking for a nanny will interview so many nannies. I mean, it's normal to interview 10. So I know several parents who've interviewed 20. The most I've ever heard of, I met a dad who had interviewed 40 nannies before they chose their nanny. Okay. And so that's for the first baby. For after school, though, now your kids are older, like 5, 6. Yeah, it is not uncommon for people to interview one and say that one. You know, and
just
so
take anyone that comes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's not that the parent. Partly, I mean, now I've got a kid who's 5, so I can say this. Partly, you are just slightly ground down by the world by the time, like, you fast forward 5 years. You know, you've got your tiny little baby, and you're feeling all very fresh.
It's grown now.
You know, and 5 years later, you're just like, you know, exhausted and haggard and like desiccated. But it was partly just that like you've got a lot on, but also. The risk is very different. So you know, a small baby is very vulnerable and defenseless, and Whereas a 5-year-old, if your 5-year-old doesn't like your nanny, you are going to find out about it, on day one, end of day one, maybe earlier,
Yeah.
So it's but parent behavior.
Yeah.
The fact that these are the same people, right? These are that you when you have your first child, you're holding that in your arms. That what you will do, the way you think about that child, and then the way you think like 5 years later, is just so different.
Oh, I've never heard my mum say that before, but it is probably the case.
There's a on Mumsnet. There's an acronym PFB, which I quite like. People talk about their PFB and all the things they'll do for their PFB.
What's a PFB?
PFB means precious firstborn.
Oh,
and it's this idea that like for your precious firstborn, you'll like iron their pillowcase and all of this stuff. You'll make sure that if you're watching TV and it's a bit too loud, you'll kind of cover their ears and all this stuff. For your subsequent children, no, you're not going to do that. I'm a third, so maybe that's
the other thing I wanted to kind of move on to was obviously you've created something fairly complex. And I mean, what advice do you have for founders that have got to the MVP stage and now trying to get to product market fit? I mean, were there certain components or values that you guys adhered to during that phase?
I think I got some. I read some stuff about product market fit. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz, someone like that, who said, you'll know when you hit product market fit because you can feel it. It's like the market is pulling you.
Yeah.
You can't make stuff fast enough.
Yeah.
Like your biggest problem becomes like
supply.
Just supply. Yeah. And so that was the case for us, and is still the case actually. That you can just feel it's almost a physical pulling sensation of when you actually know that you've hit product market fit. And I think until then, you just got to keep iterating and not fool yourself.
Yeah.
I think there's some things like paid marketing, performance marketing that can become, it's like sugar, it's like an addiction.
Yeah.
And so just really trying to avoid that. We got our first 3,000 sign-ups without spending a single pound on marketing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And this just shows you you've got some product market fit when you can say that. And so I think that's the kind of place you should be in if you've got product market fit. You should be able to get your. I don't know if this is always true, but it certainly was true for us. And I wonder if this is a good guideline, that you should be able to get a very substantial number of customers without spending anything on marketing if you've got product market fit.
And if you're spending a ton on digital marketing to get your initial users, you probably need to keep on iterating and listening to your
because if your product is that good, people will help their friends and tell each other. And early adopters are always going to be a bit easier to get anyway. You might later have to spend money to acquire the later people or to go beyond your kind of initial niche.
I mean, in terms of scaling challenges now, you started, you created the MVP for Koru, and now you've closed a substantial round. What's the mindset shift as a CEO you have to kind of adopt when looking to scale your company? I mean, I guess you're always focused on the product as a founder, but
so I've actually been very deliberate about this mindset shift. So as soon as the round closed, I took 2 weeks, and actually I took the first week after it closed. I just read books.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I got some recommendations from people, and I took a good 2 or 3 days where I just lay in bed and I just read books about like this next stage.
Okay.
I'm very conscious of needing to scale myself up. And do this bit of the journey that I haven't done before. So that was week 1 after I closed, read books. Then the next couple of weeks, I basically did a tour, and the thing that I needed to, I'm very clear on our challenge over the next 12, 18 months. It's all about product. And therefore, what I really wanted to do was talk to the best product people I could possibly find in the world. So I identified who I thought would be the best people, and I reached out to them and said, can I come and talk to you and ask you some questions? And they all said yes, which was nice. And so I went around London. I only did it in London. I did do some video calls actually outside London.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I kind of had my questions and I sent them to them in advance. And I spent 2 weeks trying to educate myself on what the challenges are going to be for this next stage. And I had some specific things that I wanted to ask them about, about hiring and about scaling up and about product challenges at this stage. Like, for example, one of the key questions, maybe the most important question I had, was how many things can we do at once? Because that's what I'm doing right now is doing the planning, and if you do too many things at once, you do everything terribly. If you do not enough things, then you don't achieve enough in the time that you have.
Yeah.
But how do you know how much is enough and how much is too much?
Yeah.
And so I asked everyone that question, and most people, and I kind of amalgamated the answer. But so that was anyway. So that was the next 2 weeks, and. For those people as well, I asked them, what blogs should I be reading, what books should I be reading, all with this view of like, how do I scale myself up? And I now feel like, having done that for kind of 3-4 weeks, I'm ready now. Yeah. I've got like intensively done that. Yeah. And then the next thing I did was went okay, well, I've now been out of the business essentially for a while. Now I need to intensively get back in touch with the business, and rather than the sort of high level metrics that I, like dashboards and stuff that I can see, I need to spend time with people, observing, and I need to get more facts about the business so that I can make good decisions. So the next thing I did was I went to every product session, every retro. I went to observe stand-ups. I tried to get really, really close to all the details so that I understood what was actually going on, really, truly going on. Yeah. And that brings us up to the present day. So now
what was the best bit of advice or something that really stuck out to you from all of the amazing people you spoke to?
Well, on the question that I said of how many things can you do at once, the best answer I got was it is a function of management bandwidth. Okay. So you should do as many things. The question was, it is not about how many engineers you've got. It is not about how many product managers you've got. It's also not, there's also not an answer that's like 1 thing or 3 things or 5 things or, whatever. Like the answer is, it's however many things. So the answer was, figure out who are the good leaders in your business. They may or may not be the people at the top of the org chart. They might be other people, right? But figure out who are the truly great leaders in your company, and then you can do as much as those people can directly manage. And don't try to do more than that. And you don't have to do less than that. And so just figure out how many of those people you've got and what they can manage.
Okay. And in terms of promoting from witin, I mean, do you have any insights or frameworks to kind of use when it comes to promoting from within? Because you said a lot of the junior people that started with you, the people that went through that gauntlet of interviews, are now some of your senior leaders and now becoming product managers. I mean, did you have a certain path for them? I mean, did you create a certain path for them to move in that direction?
Very deliberately we did, because I think that everyone after about, people understand that startups are somewhat chaotic and they're willing to roll with it for sort of like 6 months, maybe 12 months. But around about the 12-month mark, people start thinking, okay, where's this going? What's going on? And what you do not want to do, especially if you've invested so much in coaching and all of that, and they understand everything so deeply, you do not want these wonderful people who are ambitious to leave at this point and go to a different startup. So, so much before that, we want to be having conversations with them about, okay, where's my role going? What's the ladder? So very early on, I think this is because I have a background as a consultant as well as a management consultant. I think a lot earlier than other startups, we put that in place. So we very deliberately put in a career framework. We probably only existed as a startup for like a year or something before we did this.
Oh wow! Okay.
And it's very clear, and you know, it says, these are the bands that we have, these are the seniority bands, here's how much you get paid, here's how the promotion works, here's what you're expected to achieve at this band. If you work at this, if you deliver at this level, you move up. A couple of other things we do is we make a big deal of promotions. So we actually have formal promotions, and we announce it to the whole company, and the manager says something about the person, and you know what they're really great at, and we kind of celebrate them. And we try to be super transparent about this thing, so that people can see that here is a place where, yes, we are hiring loads of people. We are hiring product and tech people at all levels. But this is also, it's not just like people are coming on top of you. It's also a place where you can kind of grow and develop. And I think it's really important to be really transparent about that, and also show that it's meritocratic. Yeah, it's not based on whoever asked for a pay rise. You do not get pay rises by just asking for them around here. You know, because that just sets up this terrible incentive. Like whoever is, you know, a bit
the best negotiator.
Yeah, exactly. Or you shouldn't get rewarded for being the one that asks, you know, most aggressively. It's a terrible incentive. You should be rewarded for doing your job amazingly well.
I mean, you've been a successful entrepreneur. You're a mum now. I mean, what advice would you give to female founders that have also got kids in terms of work-life balance? I mean,
I'm the worst.
I was just gonna touch on that. Like, has it shifted since you've started the company?
Well, I have always worked very hard. Throughout my life. I think ever since I was probably about 16. I was quite lazy when I was 14. 15 I watched a lot of TV. But I kind of stopped watching TV when I was about 15. And so for me, the intensity that I like to work very intensely. I love work. You know, I find what I do really fascinating. I find most things in life a bit more boring than my work, which is lucky. So I've always worked with a huge intensity, and so because of that, it hasn't really changed that much. The thing that has changed a lot with having kids is there's no slack in my life at all. There's no downtime. There's no sleep. I'm completely exhausted all the time. So, you know, I'm lucky it's worth it. Both on the family side and the business side. I think my advice to male or female founders who want to combine having kids with working is do make sure you truly believe in whatever you're doing, work-wise, because you have to because it is so hard. It requires almost superhuman effort to keep doing it. You know, there are many days where I feel like crying all day just because I'm so tired. And so you have to get motivation from the work that you're doing. And so I know a bunch of founders who have kind of founded something because they could see some commercial potential, and they don't actually get that much like soul joy from it. You know, it's kind of like it's like a logical thing to do.
The trade-off doesn't become worth it for them.
As a human being. And I think it's very hard to make yourself do what you have to do unless you truly, truly, truly believe in what you're doing.
And so, like, what you're saying is that there's an obvious trade-off. Just make sure, if there is a trade-off, that it's definitely worth it.
That's what I think.
Based on what you've learned over this journey, I mean, what would you give? This startup has been going on for what, 2.5 years?
About
2.5 years. So what would be the advice you would give to the younger Rachel Carrell that started started the nanny sharing service 2.5 years ago?
I feel like we make mistakes constantly, but I can't think of like a really big one that has jumped out.
Is there a perspective change that's kind of that you've kind of had since running the company? I mean, or did you just know this is going to be hard, and I'm just going to
I definitely knew it was going to be hard. Has it been harder than I expected? I don't think so, actually. And it has not been as emotionally difficult as I expected.
Because you love it so much.
Because I love it, yeah. And I think the back to the combining with kids thing, I run out the door of this office every day at 5:30 to go home and be with my kids. And there are definitely times, because that is a sacrifice, there's lots of things that I could be doing or should be doing or whatever at work when I run out. And there are times when I kind of go home and I'm like, oh, it's so annoying, I had to not do that thing, and like it's cool to see my kids, but like I just wish there were more hours in the day. And then there've been a couple of times where my husband has taken the kids back to his parents' place in Lancaster, and we've done this twice, where I can work late or something for a couple of days, and I've kind of started doing this, working late this couple of times, and I just miss them so much that I actually don't. There's sort of 2 hours in the day where I don't really do anything. I'm like, what am I doing? This is meant to be my time when I can actually get tons of stuff done, and yet I'm just pining for my kids. What is going on? So I think that my reflection on that is that the couple of hours that I spend with my kids, in the evenings every day, just just totally focused on them, is actually so soul refreshing. That it's actually that it's great. And so for me, that balance, for me it works, but I understand it probably wouldn't work for a lot of people. Yeah,
I can imagine. And is there common tech advice that you hear in the ether and that you just categorically disagree with? Popular advice.
What would be some? I definitely have that feeling a lot. I read Twitter a lot, and I very frequently will see advice that I completely disagree with, and I'll start composing a tweet, and then I'll think, oh no, I'm going to get drawn into this. I just can't. This is like a troll thing. Except I think I'm the troll in this case.
What's the internal dialogue?
I'm just not going to do it. And so I just delete the tweet and don't end up sending it. But that happens all the time. So if I can think of some, I think. Okay, here's one. I was talking to someone about this earlier today. I think a lot of perks at work are just pointless distractions, and I don't really see why they're perks like, kind of ping pong tables and that kind of thing. I was talking to someone about volunteering days the other day. That companies that give you a day when you can volunteer, and to me it's kind of like acknowledging that the core of the work you're doing sucks, and so you have to have this distraction of a day when you get to go and do something good. It's why not have the core be the good thing? Why have the one day when you can I just think that I just think they're distractions. I think if you ask people, was there a time in your life where you would just felt really motivated and happy about what you were doing, and you loved your job? You're not going to get the answer, oh yeah, it was this time I was working somewhere really shit, but they had a great ping pong table. No one has ever said that, but the way people talk, but the kind of thing sometimes people do say is, I was on this, it was this really tough deadline, and we all came together as a team, and we all understood why this thing needed to happen, and I did my best work ever, and we pulled off something amazing, and it's the best thing I've ever done at work. That is the kind of thing people say. It's it's because of the core is right. It's you're aligned as people.
That was a meaty answer. Thank you for that. I want to kind of go into the last quick fire round questions. What's the most valuable purchase you've made under £100?
My bread maker.
Your bread maker?
It's so nice. You time it so that it goes on in the morning at 7 o'clock, and that fills the whole place with bread smell. It's so nice.
It's the best one to wake up to.
A book you would gift to a fellow startup founder?
So I have a bunch that I recommend frequently, and the most recommended one is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and it is all about creating highly effective teams. And the core thing, if I could sum it up in one word, it is all about trust. It's all about creating trust between your team members, and definitely a lot of practices at Koru Kids are based on this book, and we try to really live it, and I think it makes a huge difference to the team environment.
Okay, and what's the most valuable advice you've received?
I think when we did our pivot, I went round my investors because I'd just raised money for one idea, and then I was only about 2 months later wanted to do a completely different thing. Yeah. And we had some traction and some growth in this completely different thing, and I went round them and said, what should I do? And all of them, I asked about 3 or 4, and all of them were like, well, are you crazy? Well, obviously you should go for the thing that has growth. And don't worry about what you raised for. Yeah. Go after the good thing. Yeah. And that's definitely been the best advice.
Yeah. Okay. And your most valuable failure?
In terms of the lessons that I've learned, you mean?
Yeah.
It's probably something to do with recruiting. We think a lot about our recruiting processes, and we iterate them a lot, and we also get a lot of feedback from candidates. So it's probably been when someone has said that they didn't like something about our recruiting process. And we've probably iterated. It's not a very specific answer, is it? But I think it's just so valuable to get your recruiting processes right. So any feedback around that, probably anything we've failed.
Is it something you guys are still working on?
Oh, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
And what gives you the most relief as a founder?
Having my fundraise done. We just announced it very recently. Yeah. And that has been great. It's been a bomb in my inbox. My email is like flooded right now.
What were congratulations notes?
Congratulations, which are lovely, but also a lot of people wanting to sell me things. That's what happens when you announce a fundraise. Yeah. You get contacted by every recruiter. Weirdly, every investor as well.
Investor?
Yeah, and particularly a lot of investors who want to talk to you about your next raise, even though you've literally just finished. Yeah. And of course, all you're desperate to do is just get back to work and actually build the thing that you said you would build. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to focus on now.
Amazing. I guess this marks the end of the interview. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Oh,
Thank you.
Cool. All right.
Let's call it a day.
Thank you very much.
Amazing.
Cool.